All right, get ready to peek behind the curtain of Hollywood, but not for the usual celebrity gossip, you know? Today, we're diving deep into the energy of Hollywood itself, using some pretty unconventional intel, remote viewing sessions.
Yeah, that's right. We're going beyond the glitz and the glam. We're going to explore what three remote viewers, Svetlana, Karina, and Tamara, perceived about the hidden workings of this global powerhouse.
Now, I know remote viewing might sound a little out there, but stick with us. It's basically the idea that someone can see information about a person, a place, or even an event from a distance. For this deep dive, all three viewers focused on Hollywood, and what they saw paints a very different picture than what you see on the red carpet.
What's fascinating is that all three viewers independently described this stark contrast between Hollywood's outward beauty and a darker, almost shadowy, energetic undercurrent.
Yeah, Svetlana described it as a cauldron, brewing a potent potion that influences the entire world. She emphasized how Hollywood magnifies this craving for external validation and appearances. It's like the whole system is built on seeking approval and projecting a certain image.
Karina's session tapped into that too, but she described this jarring shift between the physical and what they call the etheric plane. Imagine picture-perfect buildings, studios buzzing with creative energy, but on this subtler energetic level, it's a dark, crime-ridden underworld.
She even linked that energy to activities like money laundering, which makes you wonder about the hidden dealings behind those glamorous facades.
And then we have Tamara's session, which adds another layer of complexity. She described this constant energetic tug-of-war between, high vibrational and low vibrational forces.
Like a cosmic battle playing out right there in Tinseltown.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really intriguing. Tamara also perceived this third energy, something that she called a dark cardinal. This force thrives on stirring up conflict and keeping things in a state of imbalance. So it's not just good versus evil, but a third player manipulating the whole game.
So it's not just about the light and shadow, but something actively benefiting from that tension. That's a whole new level of intrigue, and it makes you question the motivations behind some of the drama and conflict we see play out in Hollywood.
Absolutely. And this leads us to a question that came up in all three sessions. Why Hollywood? Why this specific location?
Right. You'd think with all the beautiful places in the world, there'd be more than one Hollywood.
Well, Tamara sensed a connection to the energy of Native American ancestors, describing the land as naturally conducive to attracting talent and fostering success. It's almost like a magnet for creative energy. But it also raises questions about the history of that land and who might have been there before.
Karina also picked up on something unusual. An advanced level of technology present back in 1886, long before Hollywood was officially founded. That definitely throws a wrench into the accepted historical narrative. Makes you wonder what was happening there before the movie cameras rolled in.
And then we have Svetlana's session, which is perhaps the most startling of all. She describes Hollywood as being conceived from the very beginning as a project for creating, visual programs that people would believe and live out.
Wait, are we saying Hollywood was intentionally designed to influence people through movies? That's just next-level mind control.
It's certainly a bold claim, but it aligns with what the other viewers picked up on, this sense of a hidden agenda behind the entertainment. Svetlana even suggested that these visual programs were meant to generate specific energies. It makes you think about the sheer scale of Hollywood's influence on global culture, from fashion trends to how we see ourselves and the world.
It's like how much of what we believe is shaped by the stories we consume. Are we choosing those stories, or are they in some way choosing us?
That's a question each of us has to wrestle with, and it leads directly into the next layer of these sessions: control and manipulation. Each viewer, in their own way, perceived a lack of true freedom within Hollywood, especially when it comes to the messages and narratives we see on screen.
Karina, for example, described a very structured hierarchy, where higher powers dictate which projects get made and what kind of content is deemed acceptable. It's almost like a filter deciding which stories the world gets to hear.
Svetlana's session took this a step further, suggesting that even films that seem to expose the truth or challenge the status quo are actually part of a controlled narrative.
So even those rebellious, thought-provoking movies could be part of the game. That makes you wonder what's truly authentic and what's carefully crafted manipulation.
Exactly. And it begs the question, how much agency do we have as viewers? Are we choosing movies based on our own genuine interests, or are we being nudged towards specific narratives designed to shape our perceptions and behavior?
Tamara's session added a layer of complexity to this by pointing to the involvement of elite groups or clans who exert control over the industry, ultimately for financial gain. It's not just about shaping perceptions, but profiting from those manipulations.
This ties back to Karina's observation of money laundering, suggesting a deeper connection between Hollywood and the flow of wealth and power.
So we've got this energetic duality, this carefully chosen location, this control over narratives. It's getting pretty mind-blowing. But hold on, because things are about to get even more symbolic. As we delve into a particularly intriguing element of these sessions, the Oscar statue itself.
Both Tara and Svetlana describe the Oscar in terms of sacrifice and a symbolic contract between the recipient and a higher power.
Svetlana went as far as to call it a mission, where the actor becomes a conduit for transmitting information to the masses, like they're being chosen anointed to play a specific role in this grand scheme.
Karina, on the other hand, had a very striking vision of the Oscar, resembling a phallus. She linked it to ancient fertility rituals and the worship of masculine power, even suggesting the name Oscar holds numerological significance.
Whoa. That's a lot to unpack. So the Oscar isn't just a golden statue, it's potentially a symbol with esoteric meaning tied to ancient rituals and maybe even a pact with some kind of controlling force.
It certainly adds a whole new layer of meaning to that iconic acceptance speech, doesn't it? And it makes you wonder what's really going on behind those, teary-eyed expressions of gratitude.
Is it genuine joy, relief,
Uh,
or something more like a recognition of the pact they've just made?
Tamara's session adds another dimension to this. By connecting the Oscar to the ancient Egyptian god Seeker, ruler of the underworld, she noted its placement at the entrance of theaters as a symbolic guardian.
We were talking about death, rebirth, the underworld. It's like this whole secret language embedded in Hollywood's rituals and symbols.
And this brings us to one of the most mind-boggling takeaways from these sessions, the sheer power of visual media itself. Svetlana's session really delved into this, describing it as the magic of cinema. She talked about how our attention, directed at screens, leads to an outward flow of energy and information.
It's like we're unknowingly feeding this system with our focus, our emotions, even our very life force.
She even went as far as to say that films are designed to capture our attention and download specific programming into our minds, shaping our perception of reality and influencing our behavior.
That sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But if you think about it, we've all experienced that feeling of being completely absorbed in a movie, of laughing, crying, even feeling our heart race along with the characters on screen.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of this potential for influence, for programming, as Svetlana put it. It's not about becoming paranoid or rejecting all forms of entertainment, but about cultivating a discerning eye.
So how do we become more conscious viewers in a world that's completely saturated with media?
Well, a good starting point is to simply be aware of our own preferences. What genres are we drawn to? What kind of stories resonate with us on a gut level?
And then ask ourselves why. What need is being met by consuming that particular type of content?
Precisely. Once we understand our own motivations, we can start to be more selective about the films and shows we watch, the music we listen to, even the social media accounts we follow. It's about taking back control of our mental diet.
It's like we wouldn't eat junk food all the time, so why would we feed our minds with content that doesn't nourish or uplift us?
Another strategy is to diversify our media consumption. Don't just stick to one genre or one type of news source. Explore different perspectives. Challenge your assumptions. And seek out content that makes you think critically.
And maybe even step away from the screens altogether every now and then.
Absolutely. Spending time in nature, engaging in creative activities, connecting with loved ones, these are all ways to nourish our souls and stay grounded in the face of media overload.
Okay, so we've talked about this potential for manipulation, the importance of being discerning viewers, but what about the positive aspects of Hollywood? Surely it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Of course not. As with any powerful tool, it can be used for good or for ill. There are many talented and visionary artists working within the industry who are genuinely trying to create meaningful and inspiring work.
And even within those systems of control, there are still those who manage to break through with authentic stories that touch our hearts and expand our minds.
Exactly. And remember Tamer's observation that the land itself where Hollywood is located is naturally conducive to attracting talent and fostering success.
Right, like a magnet for creativity.
So it's not about demonizing Hollywood, but about recognizing its complexities and making conscious choices about how we engage with it.
One thing that really stuck with me was Karina's observation about different genres being used to target specific personality types. It's almost like a matching system where certain genres appeal to particular psychological profiles.
She described how action-packed films, for example, might target individuals who are driven by adrenaline, competition, or a need for external stimulation.
It's like giving them a dose of what they crave, but within a controlled environment. And through that, certain values or behaviors can be subtly reinforced.
Think about the classic hero's journey, so prevalent in action movies. It often glorifies violence as a solution, reinforces a black and white view of good versus evil, and prioritizes individual achievement over collective action.
It's subtly shaping our understanding of what it means to be a hero and what qualities we should admire.
Exactly. And it's not just action films, of course. Romantic comedies might be used to target those seeking connection, validation, or a sense of belonging. Horror films might appeal to those drawn to the darker aspects of human nature.
It's like they've got a formula for every type of person, a way to tap into our deepest desires and anxieties.
And this is where Svetlana's concept of the magic of cinema comes into play. She described how films, through music, visuals, and skillful editing, can bypass our critical thinking and speak directly to our subconscious.
So it's not just about the story itself, but how it's presented, how it makes us feel, and the subtle messages woven into the experience.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to be aware of this potential for influence. It's not about rejecting all movies, but about watching them with a more discerning eye,
Right.
questioning the messages being presented and choosing content that aligns with our values.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember about the power of visual media?
I'd say this. Movies are powerful. They can be tools for manipulation, but they can also be catalysts for awakening and inspiration. The key is to be aware of their influence and to make conscious choices about what we allow into our minds and hearts.
Well said. And as we move into the final part of this deep dive, we'll explore some of the deeper implications of these revelations and consider what it all means for us as individuals, navigating this complex world of illusions and hidden agendas. Okay, so we've uncovered some pretty mind-blowing stuff about the energetic undercurrents of Hollywood, the potential for manipulation through visual media, and even the symbolic significance of the Oscar statue.
It's a lot to process, isn't it? And as we move into this final part of our deep dive, I think it's important to shift gears a bit and explore what all of this means for us as individuals.
Yeah, one theme that keeps coming back to me throughout these sessions is this idea of sacrifice. Both Tara and Svetlana mentioned it in relation to the Oscar, but it seems like a thread woven through all three of their experiences.
That's a really insightful observation, and it speaks to a deeper level of inquiry that these remote viewing sessions invite us into. What sacrifices are we making, consciously or unconsciously, in our pursuit of success, recognition, or even just a sense of belonging?
Yeah, it's like we're being asked to consider, are we giving up parts of ourselves, our true essence, to fit into a mold that's been created for us?
And if so, what's the cost? What are we losing in the process?
Karina's session, with that striking image of the Oscar as a phallus and its connection to ancient fertility rituals, adds another layer to this idea of sacrifice.
It's almost like a commentary on the industry's obsession with power and the potential for exploitation within a system driven by masculine dominance and control.
When we connect that to Tamara's observation of a dark cardinal energy thriving on conflict and imbalance, it makes you wonder if there are forces at play that actually benefit from keeping us divided and in competition with each other.
It's a sobering thought, but as with any deep dive, the goal isn't to dwell in fear or despair, but to use this knowledge to empower ourselves.
So how do we take all of this information, this awareness of the shadow side of Hollywood, and turn it into something positive, something that helps us move forward with more clarity and purpose?
Well, I think the first step is simply to acknowledge what we've uncovered, to recognize that there are forces at play that might not always have our best interests at heart.
And then to make a conscious choice to step out of that game, to refuse to be pawns in someone else's narrative.
Exactly. It's about reclaiming our power as viewers, as creators of our own realities. We can choose to be discerning about the content we consume, to support artists who are aligned with our values, and to use our own voices to tell stories that uplift and inspire.
So instead of being swept along by the current, we become the navigators, charting our own course through this complex and often illusionary world.
And perhaps by doing so, we can contribute to a shift in the energetic dynamic of Hollywood itself, from a system based on manipulation and control to one that celebrates authenticity, creativity, and our interconnectedness.
That's a powerful vision. And it starts with each of us making conscious choices in our own lives. about what we watch, what we believe, and how we choose to express ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd like to leave you with this thought. If we accept the possibility that there's more to Hollywood than meets the eye, it opens up a whole new way of seeing the world. What other systems or institutions might operate on a similar level of subtle influence?
It's like the rabbit hole goes even deeper, and it's up to each of us to decide how far we want to explore. But one thing's for sure, you won't look at the red carpet, or any screen for that matter, the same way again.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? It's about expanding our awareness, questioning our assumptions, and ultimately reclaiming our power to shape a more conscious and authentic reality.
Well said. That was an incredible journey, and I want to thank you for guiding us through this exploration of the hidden world of Hollywood.
It was my pleasure. And to all of you listening, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep creating the world you want to see.